Good evening, friends. Good evening. How are you? Welcome to Beyond the Pain Live. It's another great opportunity to be here tonight. As a usual practice on Tuesdays, where we come here to encourage each other in our journey beyond the pain. This is Beyond the Pain Live, and what we talk about here is how do we go through our life's painful experiences and find purpose through it and beyond it. And it's always a joy to be able to look at something that has happened to us and see how we transform it to something that is of eternal significance. And tonight, in continuation of the theme that we began with this month, never waste your pain. Don't waste your pain. I want to share with us another subject under it, and that is pain has lessons. You know, when we look at life, every single one of us wants a pain-free life. You, me. I mean, who wants to go through challenges? Who wants to go through trauma? Who wants to go through painful experiences? No, we don't. All of us want to live a pain-free life. So no one wants to have to deal with a painful experience. But the truth of the matter is that pain is actually essential for life. It ensures our survival. I mean, I have had stories of old people, in the north central part of Nigeria, in Plateau State, when it gets really, really cold at some part the time of the year, I think during the Hamilton, and they sit close to the fire to keep warm. And sometimes, because of the frequency that is not regulated, the cells becomes dead. They don't actually feel the heat, and they keep moving closer and they keep moving closer until they get burned. And we also know that people who have leprosy may not have the sensation of pain as well. So pain actually tells us that something is wrong with our body. Pain is an early warning signal that tells us that you need to move from something that might be dangerous. So if we don't have any feeling of pain at all, it is actually dangerous for us. It makes it difficult for us to avoid dangerous situations. But having said that, we know that life brings us unexpected situations that can cause us great pain. And I'm sure that if I give every single one of you the opportunity to share your story, and you look back in the past few years of your lives, you will have one story to tell of something hard that you have had to endure, something difficult and challenging that you've had to go through. That is life. Life experiences can cause us pain, it can cause us distress, it can bring us to the place of despair. Just as much as life can bring us joys and pleasures, it can also bring us emotional, psychological, physiological, and physical pain, psychological pain. Pain is universal, it is inevitable. There isn't any single one of us that is going to go through life without having to go through one painful experience or the other, one adversity or the other, one challenging, situation or the other. The truth of the matter is that Jesus did not leave us unprepared. He said in John 16, verse 33, that in this fallen world, in this broken world, we're going to have trials, tribulations, adversity. But he encouraged us to be of good cheer. Why? Because he has already overcome the world. So he gave us an advance notice and shouldn't catch any of us unawares. I like David for many reasons because he is one person who is very authentic and honest in the expression and description of his painful experiences. He's somebody who suffered rejection. He is someone who, suffered significant great losses. I remember once that he had gone to war and he came back with his men after being rejected by the people that went to support at war, to find that the Amalekites have come and they have taken away their wives and their children and their properties and razed down the community. And the Bible recorded that they wept. They wept like, until they had no more strength to weep. And he was, appointed to a throne. And he was anointed, but yet he was serving the person who was already on the throne. And this same person wanted to kill him. He had to deal with his child, also wanting to kill him to get the throne. So this is one man who has really experienced pain in different spheres of his life. And you see, the thing I like about David is that he can be brutally honest about how he is feeling. He doesn't hide it, especially when he is expressing it to God. But you see, amid his pain and the expression of it, he actually teaches us a lot of lessons about how we should process pain. David will always acknowledge God's great power. He will always acknowledge the sovereignty of God, no matter how hard, no matter how difficult, no matter how, bitter his experiences may be. He will lace it and say, yet I will still praise God. Yet my soul will still call on the Lord. And that was the pattern with David. He acknowledges the sovereign authority of God. He acknowledges the goodness of God in the midst of this painful experience. If you want to explore that further, just take a look at Psalm 102. The way he described what he was actually, let me just take a quick peek at it and share it with you. He was kind to God and said, Lord, listen to my prayer. Listen to my cry for help. Don't hide your face from me in my time of distress. It says, stoop down and hear my cry and answer me. For my days of happiness have gone up in a smoke. He had experienced happiness. He had experienced joy. And now something significant has happened to him. And he could describe it that his happiness went up in a smoke. His body is raging with fever. He said, my heart is sick and I'm consumed with a physical illness. In fact, he went ahead and said that he had withered like dead leaf. It's every time that I read David's expression and see how graphic it is with it, it reminds me, when I was going through my long ordeal with chronic diseases, and when I'm trying to explain to the doctors, I want them to know what I have been feeling since the last time that I was with them, how the pain was, how the discomfort was. And I have this capacity to use words, and when I begin to describe it, I want to create an image for them so that they can appreciate. That was what I thought I was doing, that they can appreciate exactly what I was saying. And each time we walk away from the hospital, we return back home, my husband will always say that, gosh, That was a graphic description. Did you need to go into all that detail about it? The doctors doesn't not need to know all of that. It just needs to understand what is going on. But you see, because I have the descriptive ability, it helps me to appreciate what David does. And what my husband helped me to do was to transform that into writing my story. Like, just put that, transform that energy to writing the story in a way that will people will see what you have gone through, but they will also see the power that kept you through it. And that was one lesson that I learned from that experience, that I may be able to describe my pain, be authentic about it, but I must also, and which is what David, taught us in Psalm 102, we must also be able to see what lessons have you learning from it? What is coming out of it that is strengthening your faith? How is your faith being built up? How are you holding on to hope amidst all of these things that you are going through? And so for me, when I read the way David described it, and he went on, if you go on and on, he just went and said, I am nothing but skin and bones. Nothing is left of me but whispered groans. I'm reading the Passion Translation, which also adds some flavor to it. I am like a pelican in the wilderness. I am sleepless, shivering in cold, forlorn, friendless, like a lonely bed on the rooftop. But you see, as he goes on and on, then he said, but I remember that you, O Lord, sit enthroned as king over all. The fame of your name will be revealed to every generation. And I know that you're about to rise and show your tender love to Zion. Lord, it is time for your compassion and mercy to be poured out. He has described his pain. He is honest with God. He is not, because I know that there are those who come with this theology that you have to be careful how you talk to God. He is my Father, and I can be honest and authentic with him. Now we are talking about lessons in pain, and we see that in the way that David handled and processed his own painful experiences, he provided us lessons that we can learn from about, when we process our own pain as well, when we're dealing with something challenging, how we can acknowledge God's power, God's sovereign authority as we're going through it. See, my friends, there are many life lessons to be learned through pain. The stuff that I have learned in my over 20 years of living with chronic diseases, 7 years of being on oxygen supplementation, 3 years of being on ventilator, lung transplant, 5 weeks of coma, and then top it with double leg amputation. I have written books on it, and I have not even exhausted the things that I learned through this experience. But you see, we need to be able to acknowledge our pain, acknowledge what we're going through, and not deny it. And then we begin to process it and learn from it. We can look at what happened to us in the past and say, what have I taken away from this experience so that I do not waste that pain? I do not waste that experience. The pain that we do not transform is wasted. The pain that we do not learn from. The Bible tells us that He will comfort us in all our afflictions. Nothing is excluded, irrespective of what you may be going through. There is a comfort you can receive that will, for yourself, that then can translate into you being available to help others in their own painful experiences. You see, there is no way you and I will learn patience, endurance, long suffering without going through situations that will challenge us, that will, something hard that just refuses to go away. That's why it is called long suffering. Endurance means you need to be able to endure it, push against it. And many of us pray, we want to have, we want to be patient people. When you ask for to pray that prayer, you're asking for a situation that's going to test your patience. And endurance is something that we must have. But we cannot have endurance without going through something that is hard, that is not unrelenting, that is not shifting. So we are the endurance and persistence is talking about being able to keep going even when we are faced with obstacles and challenges. We keep pushing on, we keep pushing on. Let me tell you this. Pain produces powerful testimonies. Our painful experiences, when we take it and process it and reframe it, they produce powerful testimonies. We love to listen to testimonies that inspires us. We love to listen to testimonies that encourage us in our faith. We love to listen to the things that people, the things that they have brought out of painful experiences. But the thing is that they cannot bring out that testimony. They cannot bring out those things that inspire us if they have not endured something, if they have not gone through something that challenged them. And then when they come to testify, they're telling us how God helped them, how they saw the hand of God moving in that situation, and how it strengthened their faith, what they learned from it. And it becomes available to you and I as lessons that we can learn from and apply in our own situations, life situations. Our personal testimonies of how we endured and overcome our adversities and painful experiences become lessons from others to learn from. And that is one of my earnest prayers and desires, that when I come here and I share my testimony, when I come here and tell us, share with us that there is purpose to be found beyond the pain. And if we focus on the pain in itself, if we focus solely on the pain, we will miss the greater purpose that it can serve. No matter what painful experience or adversity that we have had to endure, it has a greater purpose, it can serve a purpose that is higher than us. And I always say it, our pain will be in vain if it does not serve as a gain for others. But our pain cannot become a gain for others until we have mined lessons from it, until we have processed the raw material of our pain and transformed it to something that will be beneficial. And the truth of the matter is that it is never only beneficial for others, it comes back to us too. One of the Bible scholars that I follow, and on this conversation on pain and suffering and how we can deal with it, he made a profound statement that really resonates with me, and I'm going to share with you. His name is David Mertis. He says the most cherished realities in our lives are forged in the fires of pain and suffering. I'm here today. The only reason that I have come to this place where I am talking about purpose beyond the pain is because of what happened to me in the furnace of affliction. I have been in the furnace of affliction. I have been in the fiery fires of pain, of adversity. And I didn't survive it in my own strength. I would be the last to tell you that. I know that I went through that and came out simply by the grace and mercies of God. And I can tell you that pain would teach you to know God's grace. It would teach you to learn and desire God's grace and depend on His sustaining grace. When I wrote my first book, Grace in the Storms, I started with my first working title was Empowered for Victory. When I started, it took me 13 years to write that book. When I started, it was Empowered for Victory. But as I was writing this book, the constant theme in all the stories I was sharing was the grace of God, the grace of God that sustains us in the storms of life, the grace of God that sustains us in times of adversity, the grace of God that keeps us when we go through traumatic experiences, whatever form it may be, whether it is physical in terms of illnesses, or it is psychological, or it is emotional pain. It could be the pain of separation, broken relationships, grief of loved ones that would have been lost. It all, the only way we can go through them is simply by the grace of God. I knew the grace that sustained me through those fierce storms that could have swept me away. I knew that it was hope, the lifeline of hope, anchored on the rock of ages that kept me from being swept away. And so the title became Grace in the Storms, because I want to be able to encourage everyone who will read that book that there is a grace of God that sustains us through the storms of life. And from thence on, everything that I've been doing has been franchised on grace. And have the hands of grace, the feet of grace, inspiring hope, which is also sharing the message of grace based on the lessons which I, by the grace of God, learned through my very experiences. Grace will learn more about it in the place of suffering, in the place of pain. And you see, when we put the subtitle, it was the full title is Grace in the Storms, and the subtitle is A Living Proof. I am a living proof of how the grace of God can keep us through the storm of life. That is one lesson, one of the lessons that I learned from my pain, that there is a grace of God that sustains his children in the times of adversity, in the times of pain. Pain has lessons, loads of lessons that it can teach us. There is a lesson you and I can learn from every painful experience that we've endured. And quite honestly, friends, we will be doing ourselves a disservice if we do not come out of every painful experience with a lesson. What can I learn from this? What can I take away from this cave of isolation, this cave of confinement, this thing that has happened to me, even when our pains are occasioned by the unjust acts of others? When we have been victims of calumny, we've been victims of other people's wicked behavior, there is still something we can learn from that experience. And I challenge you, take a look at something hard, something difficult that we've gone through in the past years, and write out, what lessons did you learn from it? What did you bring out of that situation? It's an exercise that I want to challenge you to do. Sit down with that experience. So, what am I bringing out of this? What have I brought out of it? Write it down. If you have, I mean, in this world, like I mentioned earlier, we're going to go through stuff. We live in a fallen and a broken world. And so, at one time or the other, we're going to go through these experiences. Then we might as well get something out of it that we can take into the future, that is something that is positive, something that is meaningful, something that is valuable that we can take into the future, that is not only about being beneficial for us, but also beneficial for others. I don't want my pain over 20 years of my life, the experiences of over 20 years of my life, just to end like that. No, it cannot. It would be a double tragedy if I go through a painful experience and that is the end of it. That is a tragedy. And like I shared with us last week, it is tragic that we go through these challenging things in life, these difficulties in life. But it is even greater tragedy if we don't bring something out of it that will be useful for somebody else, that will be useful in the long term, in the future. And the pain that we do not process, the pain of the past, it doesn't just go away. We drag it with us. It begins to dictate our present reality and direct our future possibilities. And that's why we must look at pain in the face and deal with it and process it and reframe it, and then we repurpose it. Pain is a faithful teacher. Whether you like it or not, your painful experience will teach you something. It's a matter of whether you're going to listen to that, to the lesson, and take that teaching. Pain will always teach you something. For starters, it will teach you about it will bring you to a place of awareness of God's mighty power. It humbles us, it makes us to appreciate our frailty. It makes us to appreciate how thin life can be. I mean, David said that his happiness, evaporated into thin air because of what he was going through. Recently, I lost a very dear daughter of mine, because I can definitely call her my daughter, because I was part of raising her. I was part of her life when she was born, and when she was a toddler. And her passing at 24 really hit me. And I was asking God, this girl's 24 years of life, just that's gone like that, like a twig broken by a forceful wind. But the more people were talking about this young lady, it is incredible how many lives she impacted in her 24 years. And as her parents are grieving, yet they are learning significant things about their daughter that is encouraging all of us. That even in her death, she's still teaching us some lessons. 24 years old. And so, my friends, pain makes us aware of our frailty, and it brings us to that awareness of God's greatness, God's power that sustains us, God's power that holds us together. David again, my favorite guy, he said in Psalm 68, praise the Lord. Every day he helps us with the loads we must carry. And he is the God who saves us. But for the mercies of God, you and I would have been consumed. Another translation says, blessed be the Lord who bears our burden day by day. You will not be talking about God bearing your burden day by day if you had no burden that you are bearing. that you've had to bear. Pain teaches us humility. Oh my goodness. Life can humble us indeed through our painful experiences. It teaches us to know that this life that we live in, it is not by Bugayim and Gagra. It is, it brings us to the place where we understand our own human weakness. It humbles us. It humbles us. You know, Paul said in 2 Corinthians 12:17 that a thorn was given to him because of the magnificent revelations that was first given to him, the knowledge that he has received, the revelations that he was received that could make him feel puffed up, arrogant, and boastful. He said a thorn was given to him to keep him from being excessively conceited because of the power of the knowledge that he carried. It brought him to the place of humility to recognize that what has been given to him, it's not to make him conceited, to exalt him as an individual. It is therefore the extraordinary level of the revelations I have received is no reason for anyone to exalt me. I mentioned earlier that pain teaches us to rely on the empowering grace of God. If I have not taken any lesson out of my experience, it is that knowledge that God's grace empowers, that knowledge that God's grace sustains, that knowledge that God's grace abounds to us in our moments of afflictions. Let me share one more lesson. Pain brings us to that place. If we choose to frame it in the light of who God is to us in the time of our pain, it brings us to the place of gratitude. Oh, you begin to appreciate the breath in your nursery. I never would have given thanks for being able to breathe until I was at that place where just breathing was like drawing water from a deep, deep well with a galvanized bucket. Just every moment breathing was like running a marathon. I would never have been grateful and appreciated the value of oxygen until I had to pay for oxygen to be delivered to my house for 7 years. Who would have thought that oxygen was that expensive? And we get it so free in the air every day. Oh, I would never have appreciated the value of being able to smell roses. It was taken for granted. I see roses, I love them, I smell them. I see a good fruit, I smell it. I mean, I know the difference between the smell of mango compared to the smell of bananas until I lost the sense of smell after years of oxygen supplementation. Painful experiences will teach us gratitude. Oh, no wonder we have this prayer. Some have food but cannot eat. Some can eat but have no food. We have food and we can eat. Glory be to you, oh God. When you are looking at food and your heart desires to eat that food, and yet you can't even put it in your mouth to eat, then you will know what it means that to have food and to be able to eat it is something to be grateful for. To serve a food in your mouth and enjoy the taste of it is something to be grateful for. Believe me, if you've had to take medications that leaves your mouth sore or changes the taste in your mouth, that something that should be sweet with enjoyable becomes an ordeal to chew and to swallow. You appreciate and be grateful for the gift of taste, the gift of smell, the gift of touch. In life, we take so many things for granted until we don't or almost are losing them. That's some of the lessons that pain teaches us: to be appreciative, to be grateful, to be able to say, Lord, thank you for every breath that I breathe. In those years when I was on the ventilator, I dared not go to sleep without the help of the ventilator, without the mask of the ventilator on my face, so that my lungs do not forget to breathe while I'm sleeping. And so when I wake up in the morning, I find myself still in the land of the living. I'm thankful. I'm grateful. Thank you, Lord, I'm still here. And for every day that I lived, I'm grateful. When I was in coma and I was having those frightening experiences, and I came out, I valued restful sleep. When you just sleep and you dream good dreams and you wake up, it is a gift. I can go on and on the many things that my painful experience taught me to be grateful for. And that's why pain is a faithful teacher. In the midst of our pain, we will find stuff, endless, numerous things to be thankful for if we are capable of deep and reflective thinking. And that's the Yoruba adage that says that those who are capable of deep and reflective thinking will always find something to be grateful for every single moment of each day. It is easy for us to become very bitter about our adversity and painful experience if we do not reframe them in a way that makes us to look for gratitude in the midst of it. Friends, every time that we go through a difficult season of life, every time we go through something that causes us pain, every time we face a challenge, significant challenges, we face adversity, we must become aware that there's something we can take out of it that we will be able to share with others. There is something that you will learn from it that you will be able to share with others. But having said that, I am not saying that we go out to look for challenges, right? Or to look for pain because we want to learn lessons from it. No, we're not fatalistic. We don't go looking for it. And of course, we must do everything that is necessary to avoid unnecessary pain and suffering. But when it does visit us, when pain does come, how are we going to reframe it? What perspective or mindset are we going to approach it with so that we can learn lessons from it and use that lesson to direct the future, to dictate our present reality and direct our future, and use that lesson and as opportunity to bless others as well. And if you want to learn more about this, I will invite you to join me at the Profit of Pain course that is coming on starting from Saturday, April 1st. There is a link on my page that takes you to the Profit of Pain course where you can learn more about how to transform our pain to power, to purpose, and to profit. When I say profit of pain, I'm not talking about, I know the first thing we think about is financial gain, but I'm talking about the value that we can bring out of our painful experiences that can serve as an eternal purpose. Remember, God comforts us in all our afflictions with the same comfort with which we can comfort others. If you have gone through a painful experience and you are stuck in it, you can't seem to find a way out, please join me at the Profit of Pain course. It's a 10-week course. And at the end of the day, you will come out with a plan of what you can transform your pain into by the grace of God. And you also can have an opportunity to have a one-on-one coaching with me. One of the things that I transformed my pain to is a trauma transformation coaching, where I help people to heal from their painful experiences and transform it to something that is meaningful and significant that would last eternal purpose. So, friends, follow the link on the page and you will find the direction to where you can learn more about the Profits of Pain course. And I hope that you will take it on and we will see you in class. Until then, I will see you again next week, Tuesday, if the Lord tarries, where we share how we find purpose beyond our painful experiences. Thank you very much for spending this time with me, and I hope that you find it enriching. And if you have gained something, please share your takeaway. Let other people learn from the lessons that you have learned from this time that we have spent together. If you've learned anything, I will really appreciate it if you can share it in the comment box. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me with your questions and we will take time to expound further on it. And if you need help to walk through a painful journey you're going right now, you're going through something painful, something traumatic, and you need help, please DM me or send me a private message. I'm a trauma transformation coach. I help people to heal and go through the painful experiences so that they can discover purpose that is higher than them, purpose that will serve a greater good through what they have experienced. So I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Good night and God bless you real good. Till we meet again, God keep you and pour his blessings upon you and your household. Good night. Bye for now.